say Aiquachilcium, and then Thanasne, Chilton, Thanasne, JOZİEVP, and wijOHLIP. And it's just saying good morning. I am from the Tsartlip First Nation, and I've been growing up in our community all my life. I have four children and one grandson, so three daughters and one son. Um, and yeah, I've been part of the Tom and the Bartleman family here in Sartland. So the SÁNEĆ Knowledge Weaver joined on with I guess, is a part of the revitalization of the clam gardens in the Gulf Islands. And there's been some historical clam gardens that have been worked on over the last 10 to 15 years by some of our members that have been part of this working group, taking care of this clam garden wall over on uh, Salt Spring Island and Fulford Harbour. We've been putting in a lot of work in there, and that really takes care of the kind of the sea life in the wall, and also the kind of really revitalizing the beach for the clam life in the on the beach, and also turning sediment on the beaches to kind of revitalize the beach and the success for clams to come back. So it's kind of that's just one of the locations we've been working at. But that's kind of a part of the project, and working with Parks Canada is part of the learning process, and kind of taking lead from them, but also kind of weaving that into where we kind of take over the program as the Wasanich communities. Just kind of growing up here in the community, living through my own parents and grandparents and their ways of life, and how they lived off the clams and shellfish, and lived off the beach. And that was kind of the experience. That was kind of the curiosity to come back home and engage and work with my community, and yeah, just kind of make that connection back to my community, and really um, come in with an open heart and open mind, just to learn a bit more about. It's not so much the experience I have bringing to it, as thing it's about the passion bringing to it, is to bring it forward, to learn more about it, what things have been done with this program, but also what things can be done to make it even evolve into something more. So there's so much more potential to this program than where it's at right now. So I guess the management and the stewardship management really come to um, really taking the ownership back to our communities, to our families, of managing these beaches as to the way it was in our to pre-contact, and how it was where our elders, our ancestors were doing a lot of these, tilling the beach and managing the beach. And I mentioned Fulford Harbor, and the age on that wall is science carbon dated back to 4,000 years. And so they've done some scientific digging on that to figure out the timeline of how that was, how the timeline was made. But I think the full program would be to see it in, I guess, in full perspective, is to really put into kind of a food, but also a potential for commercial, where it would be, self-sustaining, where we're not relying on government for funding just to keep this kind of program going. And if it's commercial driven, where, some of the work that the guys are doing on the beach is also turned into commercial, where we can actually keep these guys working, but also bring more people onto the beach to do more work. And because, our people just don't eat clams here in the community anymore. So, we got elders that have needs in the community. So there's a lot of different things that I see with the shellfish industry as a big potential. I guess the time and the amount of effort that's being put into this program up to date and to carry that responsibility forward. There was a worker before me that was in this position that kind of set a good standard and following those footsteps. So, that's something to acknowledge, and also to I do want to see this program evolve into something more where it's providing, whether it's providing clams to the community members that really wish for those clams, in which that we're able to do every time we go out and harvest, and and spreading that around to each of our community members. So it's not just the SÁNEĆ Leadership Council does encompass SAOT and SÁNEĆ, Pockwitchin, and Tsartlip. So it's kind of spreading around the distribution of the harvest when we do get it, and bringing it out to different community members in our local area. Um, but to see this bit more on a regular, where we're not looking for annual funding to keep this going. So it's just kind of the looking for something that would be an ongoing process and self-sustaining to keep this program going, because it's just kind of on a whim right now of hoping, oh, maybe it will be funded again next year, or a couple of years from now. But I know there's a lot of good people in the background doing some work. So it's just, but you always hope on that kind of thing. But if you can eliminate that kind of hope and put your own control on it, then that would be the big dream, is to have a partnership with fisheries to work with us to develop a commercial industry with this um, shellfish industry. So it's just kind of the biggest part of the dream of potential of what this could be, but also self potential, or self sustaining, I should say. Um, but also, I think sharing a lot of what I'm learning is got to be in, and this is something else, is what I've kind of came across, is that what I'm learning has to be shared with um, our people back here at home and in our communities, and our youth, and our our young children coming up, because I think it's really important to kind of relate that we do have a structure that is older, that is around from 4,000 years ago, from our ancestors that actually built this clam garden wall, and how they came about it. And you kind of, and the speculation from some of the elders is the society that was back then. um, you kind of really think about, okay, well, the men were out gathering and hunting, and doing all the fishing out in the water and away from the village. And the women there were also doing some preparing food, or doing some things in the home. So you wonder, okay, so it had to have been some of the adolescent kids, some of the younger children, some of the elders that were down on the beach saying, okay, you guys pack those, put it on the wall. And, so it wasn't just the adults of the community that were down there. And I always hear, you know, our our communities weren't lazy back then. We all worked together, and nobody was allowed to go and spend 10 hours on their Xbox, and then while the rest of the people are down on the beach doing the work. So everybody had to get down there and help. So, and that was kind of the common message I'm hearing from different elders that have been on the beach, and also part of our working group with Carl Olson and Tom Smith, Robert Sampson, and Mark Sampson. They've all kind of shared that same common view, as looking at that society of how, okay, let's not think in their present time, let's think before, and how things were managed. And so that was kind of the thoughts of some of our guys as well. When I'm not at work, I would love to spend time with my grandson, my son, my daughters. Love my family very much. Spending time with them is gold. Um, I also enjoy hiking. I don't, yeah, so I just kind of need to be outdoors. And that's kind of with this job. It's really, working outdoors is really, it's very refreshing, and a good blessing to be outdoors and getting that fresh air. And but yeah, just being with my kids is really, the common answer that I can give. And yeah, because it's where I ground myself and keep myself humbled and making sure that I'm making myself keeping myself grounded and humbled for my kids so that I don't, you know, don't do anything out of the ordinary that kind of embarrasses them. I didn't think working on the clam gardens was a way of reconnecting with history or reconnecting with our culture, or reconnecting with our ancestors. But in ways, I believe that visiting these sites is a way of doing that to really honor yourself, honor your family, and honor where you come from as a WSÁNEĆ member. Visiting these historical sites is very spiritual, but also very appreciative. And you have that, that longing of, like, your ancestors were very smart people. They were very intelligent in ways of how to manage a beach, how to manage currents when they were out in the water. And our WSÁNEĆ people are referred to as the saltwater people. So I think it's just kind of keeping ourselves connected to our history, keeping ourselves connected to the present time, and also taking care of our history in the present time. So we have something to look forward to in 9,000 years from now. So yeah, so that's just kind of what I would like to say.